Well, hello, my friends. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. So, let me ask a question today, and it's a big question. If you've been in my classroom, it's the question that I usually ask on the first or the second day of class for the school year, and it is, why are you here? So, let me do the short version, the short answer to that question. So, why are you here? There's always the student that says, what do you mean by here? Like, why do I exist or something like that? It's like, no, okay, so why are you in this class? And most of the classes that I've taught have been mathematics classes or physics classes. And so I say, oh, so why are you here? And they tell me, well, they're here because they want to get a good grade. And I say, okay, and then why do you want a good grade? They say, well, they want to graduate. And I say, what does that get you? They say, graduation and good grades get me a good scholarship. And by the way, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. It always falls in this path. I've never had it really deviate much off of this path. And why do you want a scholarship? They say, well, I want to go to a good college. And what does a good college get you? A good college gets you a good job or even a good career. And what does a good career get you? Well, that gets you money. What does money get you? We have the Beatles song, money can't buy you love. Somebody says love. No, money can't buy you love. Can't buy you love. And they say, well, in the end, it gets down to here and we get to happiness. And I say, well, why do you want happiness? And then they get a little stuck. They're like, oh, that's a strange question. I say, well, what does happiness get you? What's the next thing in this sequence? These were all a means of, the grades were there to get you to graduate and get you a scholarship. And the scholarships there got you a good college. The good college was there to get you the career, which gave you the money, which you say gives you happiness. What does happiness get you? What's the next thing? And they say, well, nothing. That's it. It's like, oh, so you're here. Why are you here? You are here for happiness. And I say, doesn't math class make you happy? They all say, no. Somebody says yes, of course, but no. And I say, well, there's something strange and curious going on here. I asked them, are there people, do you even know people that have these things who are not happy? Are there people that have lots of money that aren't happy? Yes. Are there people that have good careers and went to a good college that aren't happy? Yes. Are there people that get good scholarships and graduate from school and even get a good grade? Do you know people that get good grades and aren't happy? Yes. And so I say, gee, all of these things that you say would lead to happiness don't automatically. So there's got to be something more. And I think that's why TV shows like the Kardashians or stuff like that are popular, is because here's these people that have all of these things that we say would make us happy, and yet they're not happy. And so we're maybe entertained by their misery, and we make ourselves feel better, and we think, well, if I had that, like I'd be happy like them. But no, not me, I'd be happy. I propose to you not. So there's got to be something more. And so I came across, years after I started doing this, I came across a dialogue of Plato, and it was a conversation between Socrates and a student that was new joining his logic school, as it were. And it read almost exactly the same way. And I thought, what? Like, somebody else has had the same thought that I had? So let me share that with you. So it's Plato's dialogues. It's from the dialogue called Euthydemus. Euthydemus was another character. But it's a conversation now between Socrates and Clinias. And Socrates is speaking. And he says, and now, O son of Axiochus, which I guess is Clinias' father's name, let me put a question to you. Do not all men desire happiness? Isn't that what you want? And yet perhaps this is one of those ridiculous questions which I'm afraid to ask, and which ought not to be asked by a sensible man. For what human being is there who does not desire happiness? And there's no one, said Clinias, who does not. Of course, everybody wants happiness. Well then, I said, since we all of us desire happiness, how can we be happy? That's the next question. Shall we not be happy if we have many good things? Here we go. And this perhaps is even a more simple question than the first, for there can be no doubt of the answer. And he assented. And he agreed. And what things do we esteem good? No solemn sage is required to tell us this, which may easily be answered, for everyone will say that wealth is a good. Certainly, he said, and are not health and beauty goods and other personal gifts? And so Socrates then makes a list of these things that supposedly lead to happiness. And I was like, holy moly, look at that. Here's his list. We've got wealth and health and beauty. He goes on, he says power, and then fame, honor among one's people, courage, justice, and then he says wisdom. And so they kind of make a list, and he says, I don't think we've left anything out. And Cleinias says, no, I think that's kind of a complete list. And then Socrates says, oh wait, we forgot something. He says, good fortune. That's a good thing. And Cleinias says, oh yeah, I agree. And then Socrates says, oh wait a minute, like I almost made a mistake. We've already said that. And the student says, wait, what? He says, it would be a mistake to say good fortune when we've already said good fortune, and therefore we're saying the same thing twice over. And Cleinias is like, what are you talking about? And Socrates says, well, doesn't everybody that has these things, aren't they fortunate? Why do people have power? Aren't they fortunate? Or maybe our word today would be lucky. Good luck. Lucky. You see somebody that has power? Oh, they're lucky because they have that. Fame. Lucky. Honor. Got it by luck. Courage. Luck. Wisdom even. Luck. Hey, you ever seen somebody that was better at you in mathematics or whatever? Sports? Basketball? Who knows? Better looking than you? Lucky, right? Aren't they lucky? Don't you envy them? Oh man, he's so lucky. So good at math. Here I got to struggle to get a B, and they don't study at all, and they get an A on the test. Lucky. So Socrates says, all of these good things, they're achieved by luck. But then he does a subtle little shift, and he says wisdom is something a little bit different. He says wisdom, can be achieved through good fortune. Someone can just be like, born with wisdom or something like this. But wisdom can then acquire these other things for you that you don't have just by luck. He says he who has wisdom can really replace good fortune. Wisdom can get for you things that you don't accidentally have by good luck. And he goes on to say that wisdom then, there was my list for good things. I listed them next to it. Wisdom then always makes men fortunate. For by wisdom no man would ever err, and no man would ever make a mistake, and therefore he must act rightly and succeed, or his wisdom would be wisdom no longer. If you have wisdom, Socrates says, you don't have any need of fortune or luck. Wisdom can be learned also. You don't have to just be born with it. Wisdom can be learned. If you don't have wisdom, you can get it. Okay? It's not just acquired by luck. And he also says that wisdom really is the only good thing. All of those other things are like minor good things, but they can be either a good thing or a bad thing depending upon how they're used or such and so forth. And he says wisdom then is the only real good thing. And so not just having good things acquired through fortune or acquired through wisdom is good. He says not just having them. Let's jump in again. He says, then I said, a man who would be happy must not only have the good things, including wisdom there, but he must also use them. There's no advantage in merely having them. And Cleinias says, true. Okay. Well, Cleinias, but if you have the use as well as the possession of good things, is that sufficient to confer happiness? Cleinias says, yeah, I think so. And may a person use them either rightly or wrongly. And cleanliness says, oh, he must use them rightly. What good is it if you've got lots of good food and you don't eat it? Or if you've got lots of artistic skill and you don't use it to produce good art? So it doesn't really do you any good to have those small things. Wisdom then is the only good thing. And it's not enough just to use them, you have to use them rightly. In fact, he says, if somebody has good things, it's neutral, it's neither good nor bad. But if somebody has lots of power and they use it badly, that's an evil, that's not a good. So you have to use them rightly. And so Socrates introduces then this idea of virtue. It's not enough just to have good things. You have to use them well. You have to use them for good. And that's virtue. And so we get down to it. And here's my little path. Wisdom plus virtue, I don't even want to say equals. I'm going to do like an arrow. The path leads to then happiness. If you wish to be happy, you need to acquire two things. And sometimes people say that they actually go together, that there's no separation between the two of them. That's a curious conversation. I'm interested in having that. Wisdom plus virtue then leads to happiness. And these things right here, wisdom and virtue, they can be learned. So where do you get them? Where do you get these good things? Well, number one, if you're a student, obviously you would hope to get them in school. At least basic schooling should teach you wisdom and virtue. But sometimes not. Especially sometimes now in colleges. Universities oftentimes used to be a place where you went to get wisdom, and they've kind of departed from that. I would add some other things to it. I would say the scriptures, obviously. I would say classic books. Okay, that's commonly called, the old books, the books that have withstood the test of time. That's called maybe the Great Conversation. Posterity only saves for us the best of human wisdom and knowledge. But all the things that are cheap and are found out to be false, those don't endure. Classic books have got the wisdom. And it was Descartes that I think I first saw call that the Great Conversation. Also, if you want to include this, you can say like old people that are still living, right? Discuss things with old people. They've been around a while. Hopefully they have wisdom. Not just because you're old doesn't mean you're wise, but a lot of times those two things go together. I would say then also the 7 liberal arts. And these are the things that you should maybe be discussing in school, like all the different subjects that you study. That's a way of acquiring wisdom. So like we could put then, mathematics in with that. Not as the way exclusively, but a way. Mathematics then teaches wisdom. And notice it's not just knowledge. Simply having knowledge is not enough. I've heard it said that knowledge is like knowing where you are on a map. But wisdom is knowing where you need to go and perhaps even how to get there from where you are. And I think that's one of the problems of modern culture is we are overwhelmed with knowledge. Lots of knowledge available online, internet, books, all sorts of things. We're smothered almost in knowledge, but not a whole lot of wisdom. How do you decide? How do you make a distinction between something that's true and something that's false? How do you make a distinction between an argument that's good or an argument that's bad? Or how do you choose? That's wisdom. And so then I would say happiness, pursue wisdom and virtue. And I even see this then in the Declaration of the United States, the Declaration of Independence. Okay, if you're familiar with this, I'm going to read a section to you here. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That's got very strong mathematical implications. That all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and here we go, the pursuit of happiness. This is a phrase borrowed from John Locke, and John Locke said life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. And the founders changed it, Thomas Jefferson in particular, to not the pursuit of property, the pursuit of happiness. And the word pursuit there, I think, is crucial. It's a chase. Sometimes it's elusive and it takes work. And he goes on, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. It's government's job to preserve these rights. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter and abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Again, so this idea is that happiness must be pursued. It's a chase. It's not accidental. It takes work. And it takes a mindset that says, I'm going to go out and seek for it earnestly. So, why are you here? To learn how to be happy. So when I hand math tests back, are you happy now? No. And it's not just simple superficial happiness. Happiness must be learned by acquiring two things, wisdom and virtue. I believe that mathematics can teach wisdom and virtue, as well as the other subjects that you study in school, as well as from other areas. So earnestly seek it. Why are you here? Learn how to be happy. Be willing to learn anything and everything that makes for wisdom and virtue. And in the end, that will lead to happiness. So, I hope you're doing well. Let's earnestly pursue the good, the true, and the beautiful. That in the end, wisdom and virtue lead to happiness. Bye-bye.